Okay, so I'm sitting on the floor. One, to get my dog's attention. And two, so we can do this video on how to deal with tight pedals slash solve some pedal issues slash retap some cranks. So what I got here, it's a crank set. These come off an 80s mountain bike that I got. BMX Gary actually traded to me for a different, like 2000s mountain bike. We both bought at the local nonprofits like tent sale, trying to clear out some bikes they couldn't deal with. And we're selling cheap, and we talked them down to even cheaper at the end of the day. Sort of like getting free slices of pizza when the restaurant closes kind of thing. Now, a lot of stuff on this bike was cross-threaded. These cranks might be one. When I was pulling the bikes apart, I really had to fight my hardest to get this drive side pedal out. It was almost impossible. I did it. And then went to the non-drive, and it seemed even tighter and more horrible. And it's like, hey, maybe I should save this for a video. So what we're going to do in this video is try and get this pedal out, try and see what's going on with these cranks, see if, you know, a not effed up pedal will go in, see if these threads are okay, and if they're not, we're going to, and maybe even either way, we're going to tap these pedals with correct pedal thread taps. I got a set here, I got a few extra sets I should probably put up on eBay or maybe save forever. Normally this is something I would do on a workbench. I don't have one, so that's why we're sitting on the floor when we use the ground. I did go on YouTube. I was talking about it, and so, you know, YouTube suddenly offered me a couple of videos on how to remove the tight pedals. And they seem to all be by people who aren't bike mechanics, who are regular mechanics who work on bikes. And they had all the wrong suggestions, like getting the crank super hot, but this is a really soft heat-treated aluminum. You really probably shouldn't do that. And using pickle forks and just doing crazy stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, maybe. But maybe we can just brute strength these out. So we're going to try. This is the non-drive side. So non-drive side pedals are reverse thread. So instead of being righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, they are righty-loosey. So we're going to try and go like a righty-tighty, but hopefully it'll be loose. It's got my pedal wrench. It's a little offset. And first thing you can see is this is one of the stupid pedals, only 2 wrench flats. So there's only 2 positions. No leverage at all, or no leverage at all. But we're going to try and make our own leverage by pushing this against the ground and finding some leverage. Oh, yeah, nothing, man. Like, so tight. So I'm going to go right to the cheater bar, because now that I'm old and lazy, cheater bars are tight. Okay, so I moved a little teeny bit. I'm just pushing down with this arm and trying to pull up with this arm. And it's got the pedal right there. I really might be able to clamp that down on my knee. Yeah. And now you can see we're positioned with a little bit more leverage. We're making like an L. Yeah. But this thing is the tightest pedal I've ever felt in my life. It's tight, it's horrible. It does look like it's straight. So I've moved off a little bit. There's a little bit of gap between the pedal and the crank, and it looks straight all the way around. If it looked like one side was bigger than the crank and there's 2 or 3 millimeters up here, that would be bad news bears. That'd mean it was probably forced in crooked and those threads are chewed to pieces. You can spray some lube in here and penetrating oil. Stuff kind of works. Okay, the directions, they say you spray it several times over 3 or 4 days. Most people spray it and then immediately try and use it, so you're really not doing anything. If this was tighter, I would soak it in penetrating oil. And, you know, if it was really tight, oh no, don't break your sternum, dum-dum. I love trying to break stuff on my sternum. Just pushing down. You know, let's put a rag or another piece of foam or something to try and hold it. Am I still going the right way? I feel like I flipped this dude. Something I really enjoy doing is forgetting which way I'm threading things and I'm a righty-tighty. I mean, righty-loosey. Sometimes I'm doing this on the bike. I'll take a toe strap and strap the crank arm to the frame, so the frame acts like a third hand. But, you know, I already put the bike in my probably gonna recycle pile. Another thing you do is old dead aluminum bikes make really big oversized cheater bars. Oh, oh, look at that. Oh, that's so much easier. Oh, leverage, dude. It's still just as tight and just as hard, but this extra 2 feet is just heaven. You know, and some pedals only have like an Allen wrench hole in the backside. You can do the same thing with a real tough Allen wrench. Put it in there, put a cheater bar on. People love to tell you not to use cheater bars because they're unsafe, they can slip. That is probably true. I've never had a problem, but because I'm paranoid, so be careful. Sternum cracking. And the farther out you hold the cheater bar, the more leverage you have, so the easier it actually is. I keep reaching up towards the top. That's kind of defeating the whole purpose. Wide, 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 wide grip. Oh, so much easier. So much more leverage. Mechanical advantage, if you will. I try and really teach mechanical advantage leverage because I've had a lot of interns and apprentices who are like 5'1" women. And they're not, you know, they're 120 pounds instead of my 6 foot, 300 pound going to the gym and lifting weights. Sort of sometimes, but so a lot of things that a lot of dudes my size and bigger can force without too much trouble are things that a lot of smaller people would never be able to get done if their life depended on it. So it's good to learn some leverage. It's probably good for everybody because it's likely so you have to slip right there because I'm not paying attention. You could smack yourself in the face doing that if you're not careful. It's good because you probably strain something or pull something if you're not careful, not paying attention. So I got this crank halfway out. There's like almost a centimeter gap now. There's only a millimeter before. So just coming out is just every single millimeter of twisting is just a fight. It doesn't like me. I'm medium on it. You can see how close these cheater bars come to each other. So if I'm doing this step, if I'm not careful and that wrench slips, I might punch my fingers in this one as hard as possible. So keep an eye on the tools. Be aware of your surroundings and your fingers. Try not to break anything. And don't sue me if you do. I warned you. Hey, alright. That is out. It's only medium warm. Now the threads look mostly good on this. The last couple of threads on this pedal are full of aluminum. Like thick layer of silver, like mud or grease looking thing, with the rest are just clean, shiny, oiled threads. That aluminum is from this pedal threads. And this soft aluminum cheater bar and this already scuffy crank's alright. I made a few tiny little marks, but you know, if you don't want to mark stuff up, wrap it in a little bit of handlebar tape, or you know, put something, some plastic or some Scotch-Brite or anything in there to keep things from marring. Oof. And I'm looking at this crank, and it is kind of ugly inside. There's some pretty questionably mangled threads. There's a lot of aluminum in there. And the last two threads are fine. The ones next to it are pretty mangled. So is there enough material in here to save them? I don't know. Probably not going to be able to focus on or see the threads in here too well. I'll try and grab some pictures and overlay them. Ooh, mangly. So something you can do is you can take like a little pokey tool or a little pocket screwdriver, can try and go in between those threads and scrape out some of this shrapnel, these aluminum metal splinters. And get them out. This one's pretty visible. See that one hanging out? I'm not gonna worry about too much because we're gonna go to the taps. So let's tap these bad boys. So another thing I like to do with pedals or questionable cranks is just take a pedal, a little pedal came out of something easy, and try it and see if they thread in nice, and or see if they don't thread at all because there's wiggling because there's nothing in there because all the threads are destroyed and torn out. But those ones are pretty ugly. We're gonna go right to tapping them. I have done this on bikes many times. It's no problem. You can do the same trick where you can use a toe strap to strap this to the chainstay so it doesn't move around too much. Really tighten it down. I've done it in vices. Sort of just clamp it in a vise any way you can with some soft rags or something so you can get at these threads but it won't mangle or bend or pinch these arms. Make sure you're not pinching the arms or bending anything. But try and do it in my stand. I've never done it in a stand. Maybe it won't work, maybe it will work. That seems pretty okay. So what I have here are pedal taps. These are by the brand VAR, but Park makes them, people make them. They're 9/16 by 20. That's the size of English pedal threads. There's also French threads and probably other weirdness. French is really close to English. You can run these through French and they will no longer be French. They'll be English only from then on. And something else to be very careful of is that one of these should say left hand on it, in theory. This one. This one says VAR, that's the name of the brand, and it says 9/16-20, there's an L on it. So this is left-hand thread. Most threads are right-hand threads, so this is for the non-drive crank, because it's actually going to thread backwards, or left. And I'm going to want a little tool for this. I often used so regular little adjustable, but you have to be careful. You don't want to wiggle this thing around. A tap handle is better. I think I have some. I'm going to grab one of those. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this pedal tap thread, make sure it doesn't say left. You can look at the threads too. If it's right, the threads are always sort of like a candy cane spiral going up and to the right. That's what you're twisting. If it's left-hand threads, the other way, they're going the other way, so it would look like they're going down if you're twisting this way. So if you're twisting this way, the threads are all kind of going up. So right, righty-tighty. Taps are also tapered at the top a little bit. So you see they're smaller up here. You can see there's no threads, so the threads are ground down. So they just barely sort of start and get taller and taller and taller. This is to help you get in there, wiggle it in, and try and get it started, and hope you can get it started clean and in the right direction. You never want to force threads with taps. That's even harder because they're actually a little bigger, they're a little sharper, they are made to cut. You can look and make sure it's not really crooked or pointing way down. It's pretty close. If you tap things without cutting oil made for taps, you will regret it and you will dull your taps, and they're very expensive. Put a little too much of this stuff on. Set it aside for later. This thing's light, a little adjustable wrench. I want to start with it just to see. I want to make sure it feels nice and easy. We're not even though we're forcing it, we're cutting it. And the shaker's not really forcing, not really binding. You only want to do about a turn to a half a turn, and then you want to go back. Because what we're doing here is making chips. It's cutting all this excess aluminum and making the little aluminum spikes or chips or slivers. And you don't want those to build up in your threads and break into your threads and get crushed in there and tear out your threads. Check those little slivers out. Focused. You can see them all built up. So I'm knocking them out and into this big open channel. We want gentle, even pressure, so don't be yanking on this or forcing it. I'm trying to go with the threads as gentle and easy as possible. I mean, we're really already in halfway, but here's a tap handle. It's a big giant handle that can tighten down on the square face of this tap, and they can use even forward pressure. It's probably really overkill for this, but you know, here we are. Twisty, twisty, oh, so easy. And you can see there's just piles of the stuff coming out the back. And we're going around and around, knocking the chips loose. Cutting. Cutters kind of keep getting bigger and bigger as you go, so I'm going in too far on purpose. I really want to get this cutter all the way through, knock all these chips out. More chips. Knock all these chips out off the backside before bringing it all back through. We're going to make this toothbrush a chip brush. I'm just going to knock all this stuff off. Put it with the tap magic. I'm going to gently, I mean, you can go all the way through and come out the other side, but I'm going to come back through just for the extra cleaning action. See how smooth it is now? It's like no problems at all. I'm going to take this guy off because it's heavy. Now the tap's getting loose. I don't want to drag and cause it to do weird stuff. Here's this dude. Chips, chips, chips. People say you should clean your taps after every use. I use them pretty often and they're covered, so they want you not to make them rust from the stuff, but these only go through aluminum cranks, which doesn't rust, and they're covered in cutting oil, which doesn't rust, so I'm not too specifically worried about it. So here you can see the freshly cut threads. These first 2 or 3 threads look pretty flat and a little bit low. They are definitely a little mangled. But the back, 10 threads or so look pretty good. Get these chips out of the way. Get out of there, chips. Now I'm going to grab a right drive side pedal. And we're going to see what happens. Oh, that just goes in so easy. It's real wiggly. Those first few threads aren't so great, but now we're getting into the back ones. And it threads all the way in. And really, you should reef on it to make sure it's tight enough. Because if there's barely any threads in there and it's sort of barely holding on it, and you don't actually tighten it, it might not be cool. You want to make sure it tightens down, doesn't just strip out. Like, they say it's always a bad feeling when righty-tighty turns into righty-loosey. Try to tighten it down, and the whole thing strips, and all of a sudden it's just loose and spins. In this case, it did not. That cinched up real tight. Real tight. And they come right back out. I think this crank is okay. Is it ideal? No. Is it perfect? No. Is it, 80 or 90% perfect? Is it way better than it actually needs to be? Yes. So we're calling this Totes Cool Man crank saved. Now we're going to do the same thing for this nasty, nasty, nasty non-drive side. So this, unless it's a tandem, this crank is going to be lefty. Double check this tap, make sure it says 9/16 by 20 left. So instead of righty-tighty, it's going to be righty-loosey. So we gotta see if we can get it started. Now, I have had some where the first couple threads are so bad you cannot get it started. No worries, you can run the tap in from the back side too. It's the same front and back. So we can't get it started here. We'll flip it over, we'll grab a couple of good threads on the back and go in that way. And let's just do that, because this is sketchy. Flipped it around to the back. The last couple of threads are usually great. Most pedals don't even stick in that far. Very hard for them to get wrecked. Righty. Loosey. Just twisting right a little bit to see if I can just sort of get it to lie in flat. Catch the thread. We'll come left, left, left. Oh, and we're in, and it's going real nice and smooth. Make sure it's smooth. Especially those first couple aren't mangled. They're real easy. No guesswork there. I think you can get these taps for 20 to 40 bucks. I don't actually remember. They might be 20 bucks wholesale and 40 bucks retail 10 or 15 years ago when I bought them. If you don't mangle these or destroy them or use them on the wrong kind of bike or whatever, they should last your entire life. You'll probably never have to rebuy them again. And this one's real mangled in there, so I'm being extra careful. I can probably keep going with that little wrench, but I'm going to switch to this big dude, just because it's a little more stable and accurate. Definitely put more oil on. The back side of this is real gross. Lots of gunk. So you can see there's kind of a lot of chips. It's pretty gross. It's really cleaned it out doing its job. It gets harder as you go in, since we're going from the good side to the bad side. We're getting all the way in there, knocking the chips loose. Take the brush, knock all these chips out. So I'm gonna drag them back in the crank. Now they're out. We're going righty-loosey. That is left-hand thread. Coming all the way back through. You could go all the way through, but I want to come back. I just want that second little chase and clean. It's more or less clean enough so I can do this by hand. Brush, brush, brush. Knocking those aluminum chips out. Smell the oil burned a little bit, you know, like a little heat, a little cutting action. Out of rags, so I'm using old pant legs and shirt sleeves because, you know, they own basically cut off. Spin this dude around. Taking a look in there, and it looks pretty alright. This first couple threads look a little weird, but maybe everything's low and the weird spot's a little high. Same thing again, we're going to grab a left pedal. See if this dude threads in. And so far so good. Feels pretty easy and loose. Gonna cinch it down. I think it's good, man. Break it loose, righty-loosey, and it comes out. Now, something else I should tell you, it's pretty much loose enough to get out by fingers without being super, it's not real floppy. Something else I should tell you is, I've done this maybe 100 times, and over the last 15 years, and I have never had a crank that this didn't solve the problem of if there was enough threads left. If there are so many threads gone you couldn't even see them, and the crank just fell in and fell out, well, this isn't going to solve your problem. So this has saved just about everything, and I've never had a crank strip out or pull out after doing this. It's pretty legit. Now, if your crank is so stripped out and so wobbled out, there's something else you can do called like a thread insert. So what you can do is they make kits. They're expensive, but some shops have them. You can order them, but they're expensive. But if you really love your cranks, they're high-end cranks, or the right ones, or whatever, order a kit. And you can basically do the same thing until you can tap it out to a size bigger. Run the tap through, and then it looks like a spring almost, like a coil that's 9/16 threaded on the inside, and whatever that bigger size is on the outside. You can thread that in. You can load them onto the pedals first and then thread it in. You can cover it and lock tight. Basically thread it in, lock it in, and now you have new threads inserted in there. As good as before? No, but probably fine enough. Probably won't ever come loose on a ride. Now ironically, even though these steel hard pedals were forced into those soft aluminum cranks and everything all jacked up, pedals are fine. Now if you look, all the threads are clean. These top couple are mangled with some aluminum in there. If you take a sharp little pokey tool, sharpen spokes are great. If you have some dead wheels or some broken spokes, you can sharpen up on the bench grinder with a file, or Harbor Freight has these for like $5 for a set. You can go through and just carefully, don't stab yourself, knock out all these chunks of aluminum. See this little dude is cleaning the threads of all these aluminum splinter burr things, and once they're out, this hardened steel pedal isn't mangled, it's just full of chunks of the crank and causing all sorts of problems. And maybe hit them with the brush or a rag, make sure these are all gone so you don't burr up your crank, so you go thread them back in. But yeah, no killing of the pedals. I also want to point out that if you notice why I'm using leverage, the reason why things aren't slipping so much is because I'm constantly being aware of my surroundings. That's why I don't hurt myself with cheater bars. I'm constantly making sure this one's not slipping off the tool, the crank, and this one's not slipping off the tool, and making sure the actual tool's still on the little wrench flats. So I'm constantly sort of shifting my focus to all three things and tightening. Just wanted to point that out. You have to pay attention, otherwise you'll slip it. All that force you're trying to use to make things come loose will just slip and you'll punch yourself. And I've definitely punched my knuckles into chain rings many times trying to get tight pedals off. So that's a disclaimer. So thanks for watching.